Now that we're past the home inspection, if your buyer is getting financing, the appraisal is next in the process. Is the appraisal another inspection?
Not necessarily another inspection. The appraisal is a part required by the lender to make sure that the value that you have come to is acceptable to the lender to do financing for. And the appraisal is quite a different process. You can stay home during that appraisal. You don't have to have it, show ready. It's not as important. It's not as stressful to have the appraiser go in. And realize too, most of the work that the appraiser does is done before they come to your house. And they come to your home just to walk through it very quickly and make sure that the data they have is correct. Rarely will an appraiser be there for longer than 5 or 10 minutes, which people find surprising.
Part of that is because we provide all the photos and that home video before the appraiser comes. So he already has seen your house. He just needs to verify it's still standing.
So this one, I feel like I'm selling my home again at this point with the appraiser, because we've got to come into the value, right? Is he determining the value of my home?
He absolutely, yeah. You sell your home 3 times, remember? You sell it to the buyer, the buyer's agent, and the appraiser. And so he has to agree with whatever purchase price is on that contract, and he does that by pulling comparable sales. He can't use the active and the pending like we do to set price. And so sometimes it's if in a seller's market like today, we may have trouble convincing the appraiser that the value is there because all he uses is past data.
Yeah. In a hot seller's market, sometimes getting the offer from a buyer is the easier part.
What if someone pays cash? Do they do an appraisal?
They have the right to, but typically we don't see that very often.
So once this appraisal is done, who owns it? Do I get a copy to see?
As a seller, you won't get a copy. The buyer and their lender are the ones that pay for it and order it. And so sometimes they'll give you a copy, but you don't have a right to it because you didn't pay for it.
Gotcha.
And rarely will you get one.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So what if I disagree with the value? What if they come back and they say, hey, it's under the purchase price, and I disagree? What happens then?
Well, we're going to do our best to dig into the comparables. There's many times that we have comparables that the appraiser might not have seen. And if we can show him comparables that help that help our cause and getting that price higher, we can work with him to do that. But many times we might be aware that we're at the top of the market, and if there are no comps, there's no comps. And if we can't help give him additional information to get that price high, then it's going to be lowered.
So is it just his information, or does he answer to somebody?
Well, it's the same information we have access to, and that's based on comparable sales that have sold before it. We have to find comparable sales that support that value.
Gotcha.
So if it's a unique property, it's going to be harder to find comparable sales to support it.
So what happens if we get that appraisal back and it's low, and we do everything and we can't change the value, and that's stuck? What are my options as a seller?
Right. So the contract is $100,000. The appraiser says, well, this is only worth $90,000. Right. So there's a gap in between what the bank will agree with the appraiser. They say it's only worth $90,000. So somebody or something is going to have to make up the difference. And that's where it comes into play that it's really a negotiable at that point. What happens with that gap?
Do I have to lower the price?
You have to lower the price for the bank to move forward with the transaction, and the buyer might be able to pay the difference, but sometimes the bank won't allow that to happen. And so it's a mess that we have to work through, and it can be different based on every lender. And the buyer has a contingency to where if you won't lower the price, they aren't required to pay more than appraised value. So if you won't lower the price and the appraisal is as high as it'll go, they can walk away and take their earnest money.
So when does the appraisal happen, and who schedules that?
You'll get a phone call from our transaction coordinator saying, hey, they'd like to be there Monday between 1 and 3 or some time like that, and it's a pretty easy process.
Okay.
Typically a week to 2 before the close date.
That's a great point. Yeah. People get nervous saying, hey, I don't have the appraisal, but no, if it happens a week or 2 before closing, we're still okay. If it's 2 days before closing and we don't have an appraisal, odds are you're not going to close on time. When we get that phone call, and typically it's going to be either the appraiser calling or the lender or the other agent. It can be either one of those parties, the buyer's agent. When we get that phone call, it's a celebratory
like
call, because that means the
everything's-
inspection's
yes,
done.
right.
All these different things have fallen into place,
right.
because this is where the buyer starts spending money that they can't get refunded on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a awesome part, because we know we're on the downhill side when they say for that appraisal.
And so how do I, if I have any questions, who do I ask about that process?
Transaction coordinator.
Excellent.
Yeah, if you have any questions on this, just reach out to us. On this particular process, there's so many different avenues with the appraisal process, and it's hard just to say this is exactly how it's going to happen. So when you have additional questions, contact us, reach out to us. Don't stress over what ifs. Call us, talk to us, let us tell you what's going to happen with your case, because with good information, you can make good decisions.
Perfect. And if you're enjoying these messages, these smart messages, and you think they would benefit a friend and family, share them with them or give us a call. We'd love to help out.
When you think about the customer service level of this, what do you think about? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's 24/7 information. I mean, it's
11.
it's what we've always wanted to create. It's upping our level of service and communication to a way higher level.